Welcome to Fantasy Ambush. I am Trevor, one of your hosts. With me is co-host and 49ers fan extraordinaire.
I'm Paul, and I'm already in a bad mood from serving being cut. So let's get going.
So we are going to finish up our top five wide receivers and tight ends tonight to cap off episode two. And then once this episode is done, we will start up another episode. And in that episode, we're going to talk about NFL cuts. It is August 31st, 2022. Um, for all you fantasy football players out there, this is an important week. This week and next week, there's a lot of drafts going on.
Mhm.
I've already gotten a couple drafts done.
Yep.
I've gotten a rookie
Same. Yep.
draft done in a dynasty. So like we're starting to get excited. We're starting to see some players get cut, which is huge. Players getting traded. It's a lot of fun stuff going on. So this episode, top five wide receiver running backs. Next episode, which I will release both episodes at the same time. So back to back. You hearing this? Don't worry. The other one should be right behind it. If not, wait 5 minutes. Takes a little while to load up. Don't know why, but
Mhm.
um. That being said, I'm excited. You excited,
Yes.
Paul?
Oh
Yes. All
yeah.
right.
I got some things to say
Oh, I know
already.
you've been wanting to
So
say
first,
stuff for like the last 2 days at least.
so first thing I want to say is, you and me both love fantasy football. I just want to push the message across to everybody else. Like, let's remember that these are people first. Because
Yep.
uh, I had some bad luck already. My big sleeper pick was Brian Robinson.
Yep.
Like, I took him in like six different leagues,
Yep.
and but again, it's like, oh well. But I'm seeing some people like, oh wow, now my fantasy team is fun. Like, let's focus that he was attacked, shot. That's
Yeah.
a
He
lot
he
more
look
serious.
he's a person. It look it sucks what happened to him. There's no question about that.
Yeah,
Hoping for a speedy recovery. Look, maybe we see him the
yeah,
second half of the season.
yeah.
Just
I think
depending.
so. Yeah,
Nothing major happened. I mean, it looks like he got shot in his leg at least.
yeah,
From what I've seen, that could be detrimental. But look, here's hoping for a full recovery. I would love to see him play just in
yeah,
general. I mean, this guy made it to the NFL, looked like a beast, looked
yeah,
like he's the guy, took the starter's
yeah,
job, and then unfortunately got shot up. This is so messed up on so many levels. But like, look,
yeah.
like I said, I love seeing new players. I love seeing the talent and seeing what they can do. So here's hoping for a full recovery. That being said, I did draft Antonio Gibson in one league as a late round like pick, and
Mm,
his value did go up. So we can't address
yeah,
that.
yeah,
I wish it wouldn't have happened. Honestly,
yeah,
I do like I don't you know, no offense to Antonio Gibson, but like I don't really care about those points so much as I care about, a player not getting shot. So,
yeah,
it is what it is. There are people who are talking about it. Some of them aren't
yeah,
the most savory comments. They're
yeah,
not necessarily disrespectful, but it's like, come on, man, it just happened. Like give it a week, like
yeah,
before you're gonna start talking all this stuff. Um,
yeah,
so unfortunately, it is what it is.
yeah. But I
That
mean, I'm sure from his point of view, he's lucky to be alive. So
uh-huh.
that's all that matters is he's alive and he's fine. But man, just the most in the most non-respectful way, that whole franchise is just a dumpster fire. Like, I've heard that the practice field is like right in like the hood
Yeah.
of of
Hmm.
Washington D.C. and
I've heard it's
it's
pretty rough.
crazy.
Like I heard it's
Just
pretty
that whole
rough.
franchise. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, like I was talking to some Commander fans that live around there and they're like, "Man, it's rough out here to begin with." And I'm like,
yeah.
"Golly, I didn't know."
Mhm.
So, all right, well, let's go ahead and get into our top fives and um get this episode knocked out so we can get into the nitty-gritty of cuts. Um all right, we'll go wide receivers first. Just like the last episode, we'll do 5-1. So five first, 4, 3, 2, 1. We'll swap out. If we have the same players, I'll kind of do what I did last time, which is say, hey, oh, you have them at 4, well, I have them at 3, or
Yeah.
vice versa. So we could just talk about them then and there. So go ahead and kick it off with your number 5, bud.
All right. My fifth best fantasy receiver, in my humble opinion, will have to be. It's so hard because it's like when you start ranking, like especially receivers, it's almost like take the best
Look,
five players
I
and
had a
it's like
hard time. I had a
take a
hard
name.
time
Yeah.
doing these fives straight up. Just being honest.
Yes. So I'm gonna stick with Mr. Reliable, Mr. Consistency, and Mike Evans, the receiver
Nice.
from
Okay.
the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Yeah, I mean, he's been just a dog every year. I mean, I think he's got like 7 straight years of like 1,300 yards and like
Yeah.
at least 6 touchdowns, like something like that. He's just like he has to be like the least like flashy in terms of personality receiver. Like nobody really puts him in like that top five, but he reminds me a lot of like the uh, Larry Fitzgerald, like
Yeah.
in terms of just like what he's
Yeah.
going through.
Short
Like it seems
short
like
hands, consistent player.
yeah,
People love
yeah,
him and they recognize it, but in fantasy they don't quite,
yeah,
draft him that way, I guess you could say.
high, yeah. So yeah.
I don't have Mike Evans in my top five.
Oh,
Look, love Tom Brady. I even said he was, top five in our last episode. I might amend that
mm,
and say I
yeah,
think
because
I'm
the
lowering
offensive
him
line.
down. Yeah, I'm lowering him down to like 8 now or 9 because of that O line. Like, I mean, you're missing key middle guys, and Tom Brady's
Mm-hmm.
kryptonite is the middle rush. He don't know how to
Yeah,
handle that. Well, I'm not gonna say he doesn't, but I'm gonna say like
that is his.
if you want to make Tom Brady hiccup, that's how you do it. You rush up the middle.
That's it. Yep.
Um, so look, man, I love Mike Evans. Where I'm drafting in some of my drafts, I do hero RB. So I'll draft a running back first round because it's normally like a top 5 running back. And then the 2-3 turn is normally where I would get like Mike Evans.
Mm-hmm.
And I love drafting him right there, like into the
Yeah,
second, third, because he's usually there. Now he might be going up now, who knows? But
yeah.
if I can get them in the second round at the 2-3 turn right there, love it. Think I'm winning,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like I just got a potential top 5 wide receiver. So I got you.
Yeah.
Agree with that.
Yeah,
Um,
and the only thing I would say is one, it's like it's the safe bet. Like I feel like I understand that the offensive line and Tom Brady there's issues there, but he's been doing this since he had Jameis Winston and whoever else was there. Like he's been consistently putting up big numbers. So I feel like top five, maybe you don't want to take like this like the safe, like not flashy bet, but
yeah,
that's kind of what I'm saying.
yeah. Which hey, that's fair, right? It is.
Yeah.
It's still Tom Brady. We've still seen a consistent history of him doing the thing. So
Hmm.
maybe not top 5, but I mean he'll probably be a wide receiver 1. So
Yeah.
here we go. All right. My top 5. A lot of people are kind of down on him, but he's another guy who's been consistently great. Granted, he did have an elite quarterback, and now he doesn't. Um, but he has a really good quarterback, or at least a good quarterback. I'm going with Devontae Adams
Yeah. I was like, I know
with
you're
with
going
with
about.
the Las Vegas Raiders. Look, man. Last year, which we talked about this, we talked about Carr in the last episode, but we saw Carr throw for like 4,800 yards,
Hmm.
right? But the touchdowns just weren't there, and I think Devontae Adams is going to bring those touchdowns. I think
Hmm.
I think the Raiders are going to throw the ball 650, 700 times, right? Um, and I think Devontae Adams gets 200 targets. You don't go out and sign this guy and pay this guy and understand what he is without feeding him the ball,
Yeah.
right? And look, Waller's gonna still get his. Renfro will probably get some too. Like I could still see Renfro getting 100 targets.
Yeah.
If you're throwing 700 times and 200 to Devontae Adams and then another, 140, maybe 150 to Waller, and then that still leaves plenty for everyone. That still
Yep.
leaves 300 targets. So I think with the volume, I think with how good Adams is in the red zone, maybe his yards won't be as high as it normally is, but I mean, 1,400 yards isn't ridiculous. 12 touchdowns isn't ridiculous. I
Yeah.
think that's kind of where he's at, and if he gets there, I think he'll be a top five guy. So
Mm-hmm. Well, I would say that's a fantastic pick because my number four is Devontae Adams.
nice. Go ahead and say what you got to
Yeah.
say then.
Uh, his name is Devontae Adams, and that's about
Yeah,
it. No,
yeah.
I actually think that he might be in. He might have his best year of his life.
Hmm.
I actually think so because I mean, people sleep on the uh, chemistry between Carr and Adams. I mean, they are like best friends in
Yep,
Fresno. They were doing crazy stuff. I mean, in college football, I'm a Nevada Wolfpack fan, so
yep.
Fresno State is a big feud with us, and they lit our asses up. So I remember like that year they beat us like 63-7 because I mean it was just an
Yeah,
insane
yeah.
you know offense. But
So, and here's something else I think that Adams has with the Raiders that he didn't have with the Packers, and that's a legitimate number two behind him and three.
yes,
When's
hmm
when's the last time Adams had anybody as good as Waller or Renfro as the next guy on the field? Look, defenses will probably double Adams, or we're probably going to see the same thing that they were doing with Kansas City the last few years, which is maybe too high safety look.
yeah,
Because I mean, like, what are you gonna do?
yeah.
It's Adams, Waller, and Renfro. That's a lot of people to cover. So we'll see what happens. But
Yeah, and I want to say a small storyline that I don't know if anybody talk about is it'll be interesting to see Adams as like being the guy on a team. For how great he was, I still got a sense from like Packer fans like, oh yeah, he's great, but like Aaron Rodgers, it's Aaron Rodgers. Like with the Raiders, all respect to Renfro, Walter Carr, like that's Devontae Adams. He's the superstar.
yeah,
And so it'll be interesting to see if he can elevate his game, being like the guy.
yeah,
Mm-hmm.
yeah. We'll see what happens. Look, Carr's not a slouch at quarterback, and that's
No,
kind of what I'm saying. Like, yeah, obviously Rodgers is better. Maybe Devontae Adams' efficiency goes down, right?
yeah,
But the volume's going to be there. I guarantee that volume's going to be there.
mm-hmm.
So like, it doesn't matter if
And
you're seeing 200 targets, you're going to be probably a top five wide receiver if you're elite caliber like Adams.
that's the thing is like all respect to Rodgers, but like we talked about before, but like he kind of is obsessed with making the best play. Like he's kind of like the
Yeah.
LeBron of football, where it's like it's a smart read, but sometimes like Carr. I'm not saying he's Steph Curry of football, but sometimes you just have to sling it, and,
Yep.
and Derek Carr's a slinger.
Look, go
And so
after that
sometimes,
50-50 ball. You're throwing to
yeah,
Devontae
exactly.
Adams. Oh, it's one-on-one
Yeah,
coverage. Devontae's got the lead. Throw it to him. Let him make the catch. He's a big guy.
yeah,
He knows how to
yeah.
do it.
hmm
100%. I agree. 100%.
Agreed. Yeah.
All right. So, you done? You done with Adams?
Yep.
Me too. All right. Let's move on to my number four then, since he was your four. I think this one might surprise people. But I think the logic's not all that like uncanny. My number four is Jamar Chase. Right? He
Yeah.
gets drafted as a top three guy, and I mean, look, four is not far away from three. Um, I think I think the Bengals, and I've said it before, as far as Joe Burrow, like I have no doubt if they threw the ball 650, 700 times, that offense would be redonkulous. Problem is
Yeah.
I think they're gonna run the ball a lot. I think they're gonna play conservative football, right? And not that I'm saying it's going to hurt Jamar Chase because obviously I have him as my top four, but I do think it takes away from his ceiling a little bit. And then he has T. Higgins, who is a good wide receiver. I don't care what anybody says;
hmm
he's a good wide receiver.
Agreed.
And
Yeah.
then they even have the number three guy, which I can't,
Tyler Boyd.
Tyler Boyd, and I like Tyler Boyd. Tyler Boyd's
He's
really
solid.
good at big splash plays. He's
hmm
somebody who might get four catches for 100 yards and two touchdowns, or
Yep.
be like a slot guy for a little while. So there's a lot of mouths to feed, and there's still Joe Mixon right there too. Um, I think with the plethora of weapons and spreading it around, and then also being more run centric, I think it hurts his ceiling a little bit, not a lot. I'd love to have him as a wide receiver one. Make no mistake. I just think you're gonna have those games where he might have 4 catches for 60 yards, and you're hoping for a touchdown. It could be kind of like that. Hopefully
Yeah.
not, but I could see it happening. So
Mhm. He's a beast. And again, it's like, we're kind of, there's like 9 receivers that are all great, and it's just like splitting hairs on, who can be top five.
yep,
It's hard to pick.
yeah, and
um,
that's my biggest issue with it is look, this list was hard, people. I'm just letting you know it's hard.
yeah.
Wide receivers was hard. Go ahead, your turn.
Okay, so my number 3 receiver, it's kind of a cop out because he's a receiver, but I don't think he's going to put elite receiver numbers, but he's going to put very good rushing and receiving.
Are you about to
So
be
I
are you
believe
about to be a homer, bro? You about to be a homer?
I'm about to be a homer. I'm about to be a homer.
It's okay.
Debo Samuel.
Yeah.
The only yeah, from what I've been seeing from camp is everybody was like, scared that he was going to stop running the ball. I think he's going to be more a part of the offense than he was last year. I think he's going to be running the ball more. Like I said, they've been practicing a bunch of different formations, doing options. I mean, Debo has been in the backfield a lot in
Mhm.
practice with Lance. They've even practicing some like swing throws and like screens and stuff. So I think that even
Yeah.
though I think that on the team, Brandon Ayuk, I would bet has a better receiving season. I think that Debo, he can put up, a good 10 points rushing, 10 points receiving,
Yeah.
and just like and Debo's, it's weird. Like a lot of people don't like see him that way. They see him as a tough guy, but like his explosion, makes him a guy that can get, 20 points receiving like any game. Like he doesn't need a quarterback who can throw the deep ball because you can just throw a 5 yard pass to him and he can take it to the house.
Yeah.
So yeah, so he's a special guy. Uh, Only thing I fear is health because last year he was healthy. That was great. The year before he wasn't healthy, and this year he came to camp a bit overweight.
Yeah.
So he's a bit slow, but I mean I understand the whole
Yeah,
contract thing,
he'll cut like
everything.
he'll cut 20. He probably already cut 20 pounds. Like
Yeah, yeah,
he's
so
probably down 25 pounds. Like
yeah.
um,
Um,
go ahead.
that it,
You good? Okay. So
that's
um,
yeah.
I will say now that Debo Samuel's is not in my top five. Um, and when I was making this list, I was like, oh man, poor Paul. Like he's not gonna like me on this second episode. Um, So look, I like Debo Samuels. I acknowledge that he will see running, he will see passing. He's going to be someone they throw to. The problem I have is you said it, Brandon Ayuk. He's been showing out in camp.
Mhm.
He's been doing good. He's gonna take some targets away from Debo, and I think I'm pretty sure we saw last year. Now maybe I'm wrong. Correct me if I'm wrong, but we saw last year when Ayuk was playing good and getting catches, it took away from Debo a little bit, right? You saw
Yeah,
Debo's
yeah.
fantasy numbers go down a little bit, and I'm
Mhm.
worried about that. And look, Kittle's still on that team, and while I have my doubts about Kittle, we'll hear about that later. He's still there, and you're gonna have weeks where George Kittle gets 200 yards and a touchdown or two, and
Yeah.
everybody else is just kind of like, okay, you know.
Mhm.
And then it's the whole thing that if you have like probably the best young defense in the league, top three, to be fair, I guess. Um, you're gonna want to run the ball first. You're gonna want to control the
Yeah.
clock. You're going to bleed teams, and if they can keep a consistent run game, which we talked about earlier, I'm not sure they can do with injuries and
Mhm.
everything else, right? But if Elijah Mitchell stays healthy, for 12 games, right? The first 12 games of the
Yeah.
season. I think that might cut into the receivers catching,
Mm,
a little bit, and it takes a little bit off the top. So all
mm.
those things put together just kind of made me be like, look, I really
It's
like
a
Debo.
risk.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
a risk, and I could be utterly wrong coming into the season. That's fine.
Hmm.
Debo's still in my top 10. He probably would have been
Yeah.
number 6.
Yeah.
Like it's not. It's just the guys I have on my list. I was just like they just have a little bit more to them um, that I don't have gripes with. So we'll see what
Hmm.
happens. That's all I have to say about Debo. You're good on Debo. All right.
Yep.
So my number 3 might come to a shocker to some people, and anyone who knows me and Ambush, you'll know I hate Cowboys. I hate the Cowboys. Not a fan of the
Oh.
Cowboys. But C.D. Lamb.
Wow. Okay.
Okay. Look, man, Amari Cooper's gone. C.D. Lamb is a PPR redonkulous guy, right? He's
Hmm.
someone who can get you 10 catches a game easy. Like if he got a 12 catch game, I'd be like, all right, this is within the scope of what I thought he would do from week to week. Right? I worry about his size a little bit. I worry about his health a little bit. Don't get me wrong. But I think he's going to eat. I think they're going to throw the ball to him a ridiculous amount of times. That Cowboys O line is not as good as it used to be. Right?
Yeah.
I don't think Ezekiel is going to be as good as he used to be. I think he'll still be good. He's a good runner. I just think the O line is going to take away from him. Um, look,
Yeah.
I like Tony Pollard. I think Tony Pollard might be more of a passing downs guy. And I think he's going to see some
Hmm.
passing work. I think we might see a season where Tony Pollard gets like 80 targets or 80 catches.
Hmm.
Being 100%
Yeah.
honest, like
I think so.
I think that's a very
Hmm.
big possibility. At least until Gallup shows up, we'll see. They drafted Talbert, whatever his name, Talbert.
Yeah.
Which I actually picked up in my dynasty league, funny enough. But maybe he shows out. Uh,
Hmm.
so that being said, I think CD Lambs can get the work. I think he's good. Like I have no question in my mind that he's really really good. And he's gonna see a lot of targets, and we are doing our rankings based on PPR, and in that I just gotta be like,
Hmm.
man, I think CD Lamb is gonna just be like a young Kenan Allen
Go
with a lot of
crazy.
touchdowns, right?
Hmm.
And if a young Kenan Allen with a bunch of touchdowns, bro, that's top
Yeah.
5. That's top 5.
Yeah. And I would say to support your argument, I mean, last year the Dallas Cowboys were the most explosive and highest scoring offense last year, and now you take off Mari Cooper, and now Lamb is the guy. So he should be getting a lot of looks.
Yeah, yeah, and
Mhm.
we're gonna talk about some other players on that team later on too, probably.
Yeah.
So, but just saying, he had 20 targets last year, caught 80 of them, had 1,100 yards, had 6 touchdowns. I think all those numbers go up, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
I think his targets will become his catches. I think he's gonna have
Yep.
120 catches, and if that happens, he'll have I don't know,
10 touchdowns easily.
yeah, at least 1,500 yards, 10
Yeah.
touchdowns at least. So I
Yeah.
mean, he's just up there. If he
And
plays 16 games, 17 games, like so. Anyway,
yeah,
all right. Who
I like
is
it.
your
Um,
number 2?
okay, so this might be a bit of a shock, and I promise there's no like trying to make my co-host happy, but I believe that Michael the Goat Thomas will
Woo!
be will kind of remind folks that,
Yeah,
in my opinion, he was the best receiver 4 years. I felt that he carried Drew Brees in his last few years.
hmm
Because his arm started to kind of give out, and
yeah. The
so
last three
Thomas was
years,
there all the time.
the last three
Yeah,
years of Breeze's career, and I'll say
yeah,
that as I love Drew Brees. I might get a
yeah,
tattoo with that guy. You know what I'm saying? Number 9 might
yeah,
be on me somewhere.
mm,
But the
yeah.
last 3 years, his arm was not as good. So,
No, yeah,
um,
just slants. Yeah, and then from this seeing him in camp, he looks healthy. He looks explosive.
yep,
Like he's punching people. like
yeah,
stiff arming people right in the face.
yeah,
And I mean, I think that the Saints offense is going to be good. Jameis Winston, he's a slinger. I think that it'll help a lot. The Saints have very good weapons, but they're all kind of young. So I think they're
Yeah.
gonna, lean on Thomas a lot until those guys start to get,
At least wide receiver
comfortable.
wise, except for
Yeah,
Landry, Jarvis Landry is going to be a veteran presence on
he's
that
a good one.
field. Um,
Hmm.
I'm gonna let you finish, and then I'm gonna say because I got a bunch of stuff to say. So,
Okay. Yeah, I'll just say that I actually feel that Landry is going to open it up even more for Mike Thomas because Landry's getting older and he's lost a bit of speed, but he's still super reliable in the short to mid game,
yes,
slants. And so I think Thomas is going to, with Winston, who has a super arm,
yep,
we're going to see Thomas go deep a lot.
yep,
So yeah, that's about it.
yeah. Assuming we see everyone stay healthy, obviously, after last year's debacle of just like a league record breaking amount of different players played on the Saints last year because of injuries, right?
Yeah.
Um, look, let's preface it with Winston. Winston's already showed that whether he's better than he was when he was in Tampa Bay or not, when he was in Tampa Bay, he was supporting Mike Evans. He was supporting, Chris Godwin for a little while.
Mm-hmm.
He showed that he could do that. So there's no question that like he can support a top 10 wide receiver. There's not a question about that. Um, and I do think he'll be better. I think he'll be better on the Saints team. I really do.
Yeah.
Um, kind of like you said, look, when Michael Thomas was, like you said, arguably the best wide receiver in the league at that year. What was the next best wide receiver on the Saints? Alvin Kamara.
Oh, okay. Yes. Yes.
Okay,
Yes.
and look,
Yeah.
nothing against Kamara, great pass catcher, but if
Yeah.
your next best receiving option is a running back, and then after that
He's a halfback. Yeah.
there's a cliff of
Yeah.
nobodies. That tells you something.
Yeah.
And then look, Michael Thomas ain't the fastest guy on earth, bro. He run a 4.7 on the 40,
No.
right? But
Yeah.
I will stand by this. He is the best fucking route runner,
Yeah.
right? Or he was. Well, we'll see. Injuries. He's been gone for
We'll
two
see.
years.
Yeah.
Things could change.
Mhm.
I acknowledge that. Don't want to jump the gun, which is why he's probably not my top five right now. Um, we'll see what happens. But he was the best route runner, and he
Mhm.
had amazing hands. He had Larry Fitzgerald hands, right?
Hell yeah.
Um, the dude had over 80% catch rate. It's ridiculous. His
Mhm.
average right now is 70 something, like in the upper
Yeah.
70s, which is 10% better than Devontae Adams. Like
Yeah.
just think about that, right? And that's
Mhm.
career. That's not that those are the games before that, the
The
games
whole
after
time.
that,
Yeah.
all that. So
Mhm.
like if Winston's gonna throw Michael Thomas the ball 160 times, he's gonna catch it 130 of those times, right? Most likely.
Yep.
Which I think he'll
Absolutely.
catch more. I think he'll get about 100. He'll probably get around 130, 140 catches. Um,
Yeah.
he'll be amazing. I agree. I think Landry, whatever step back he took, I think he's going to eat defenses up in the middle. You know,
Mhm.
because he's not going to be a deep guy. He'll be either middle of the field or off the line, something around that there. I think Olave is going to do pretty good for a rookie this year. I could see Olave getting 800-900 yards. Right? If he
Yeah.
gets 1,000, I wouldn't be surprised, but it's kind of more on
A
the
little
upper
bit of.
tiers of things that I
Yeah.
don't think is going to happen, but could.
Yeah.
But Olave looked good in preseason. I saw him. I was at the game. I
He
was at
looks
the
good.
last preseason
Yeah.
game, and
Yeah.
and Olave looked good. He's burning some defenses up. So
Yeah. I'm a big Ohio State fan. I just don't understand. Like, I mean, when the whole thing was going down, it was possibility that Debo would go the Jets, and then they would give us our 10th, or they would give us their 10th overall pick. I was like, it has to be of it. Like, I think he's the best
hmm
and most ready receiver, like right now, like like
yeah,
impact. And then the other thing I want to say was, listen, the first thing people are gonna say, oh, but what about his health? I'm gonna say right now, if 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 you are playing fantasy football scared, you're not gonna go far. Like, you can't be scared about health. Like me, I've been burned 2 years in a row drafting Saquon Barkley
Yep.
I drafted Saquon Barkley again. Now again, I didn't draft him in the first round the past 2 years. He was still available in the third round,
Yeah.
so that's a great
Well,
value
that's
pick.
value. That's
But
value. Yeah.
yeah, but still, like if you believe in a certain player's ability, I mean, at the end of the day, it's football.
Yep.
Like you can't be afraid of help.
Look, man, they might be great. They might not. I can't draft based on injury. I
Yeah.
It's just like CMC. It's just like I said earlier. Like,
Mm-hmm.
would I draft CMC number one overall? Probably not.
It's a
But
risk. Yeah.
I'm not gonna say I wouldn't because I'm gonna
Yeah.
say if CMC plays 15 games, he's gonna be the best running back that year. He might be the best
Absolutely.
overall fantasy player that year,
Player. Yep.
right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's all about value, and Michael Thomas is going at a value now. He's climbing up draft boards a little bit, but look, man, when drafts were first starting to happen a couple weeks ago, like you could get Michael Thomas in like the fifth round,
Mm-hmm.
sixth round. It was ridiculous. Now maybe he's in the fourth. I don't know. Like I'd have to go and look. Um, but like if I can get Michael Thomas in, let's say the third round, fourth round,
Oh yeah. Oh
that's
yeah.
value. That's
That's
value. That's value all day. Like
easy money. Yeah.
I would like if you have Michael Thomas as your wide receiver two, you're winning. You're winning. I'm
Mm-hmm.
just being honest. You're winning that position.
Yeah.
That's how I feel
Absolutely.
about it. So look,
Absolutely.
I love Michael Thomas right there. I think that's a great pick, right?
Mm-hmm.
All the things we said. I hope it happens. I really do hope it. I hope the Saints get it together because if that offense is that good, y'all better watch
They
out.
should.
We're gonna be
Yeah.
facing the 49ers in the NFC
Yeah.
Championship, and then me and
Yeah.
you are gonna have one hell of a fantasy ambush episode. So making bets and all kinds of stuff.
Yeah.
Um. Anyway, so that was Michael Thomas was your number two.
Yep.
Wow, I like it. I like it. All right, my number two, which now that I think about it, man, your list is crazy because there's two players I have on my list and you've only got one of them maybe. My number two is the tried and true Mr. Super Bowl MVP himself last year, Cooper Cup. Look, I understand. Look, well, I understand you're a 49ers fan and
Mhm.
he plays on the Rams. I get all that, but uh, Stafford arm, random pain, whatever, doesn't matter. Cooper Cup's a stud.
Mhm.
He proved it last year. He was like, "Hey, if I play all season and you feed me the ball, I'm gonna make you love me," and that's what he
Yeah.
did. He got a Super Bowl MVP for it. He
Mhm.
arguably carried that team on his back the entire season. It's really, really hard to make an argument to not draft him, other than the
Mhm.
fact that he's getting a little bit older, which I don't think he's lost a step. I'm not saying that at all. I'm just saying is you
No.
can argue he's a little bit older,
Mhm.
and the only other argument is the Stafford,
Mhm.
right? I don't think Allen Robinson is taking targets away from Cooper Cup. Don't see. I don't think it's happening right
Nope.
now. I don't trust the Rams' run game
Nope.
because both
And
both their main running backs are kind of eh. They'll probably play, but they're banged up. So I think you're gonna have to throw the ball. I really do.
mhm. So I mean, first of all, as I said again, like all they're just studs. So I expect him to be good. I just almost think that last year he kind of played out of his mind. A little bit like I don't know if he'll ever reach that or really come that close. And then the the Stafford's arm isn't that much of a big deal to me as their O line is like a mess.
Yeah.
Like they have like all backups and they lost some guys and it's been a bit weird. But I mean, I don't know. I guess I'm just biased. I don't know. Like if I if I see a white receiver be that good, I'm like, is it possible that he can do that shit again? like like it's just a once in a while thing. Like I remember when
So
Adam
I
Thielen,
I think there will be regression.
yeah, but
So as I said, I agree that there will be regression, right? Because of the season he had like a record breaking season, right?
yeah,
Um,
legendary.
a legendary season, and I understand that. I don't have the metrics with me, but um, I should have, but I didn't. Um, I think there was such a gap between him and the
Oh
number
yeah,
2 wide receiver last year that
yeah,
he could regress by like a 10% margin and
hmm
still be the number 1 wide receiver
yeah.
from last year.
Absolutely. Yeah,
And I don't even have him as my number 1. He's my number 2,
yeah,
right?
yeah.
So
I
like
would say,
I agree with you. I think you need to
yeah,
be cognizant of the fact that he will most likely regress,
hmm
but I mean he'll still be a top 5 guy, I think.
yeah. I think so. And I just it just always like surprises me when a guy of his size, like last year, I don't remember him missing a game. Like I think he was healthy all year, and
Yeah, I think he played all
that
year.
always kind of worries me. Yeah, that always worries me a bit. Like wow, like he got I'm saying lucky, but like wow, everything went his way to have a
Yeah,
super good year, and then now I just want to see how he's gonna react to now being the guy. Same thing with like Debo Samuel. It's just like wow, now that defenses know you guys are stumming. Of course, Cooper Cup was good before. Debo Samuel was good before, but like they reached like elite status,
yeah.
and now I want to see if how defenses will face off against them
Key
because like now
key in on
because
them, right? Yeah.
yeah, because as you said, the Rams aren't that dangerous outside of Cooper Cup on offense. So it's like
I
if
mean, I
they
think
just
I think
shut,
Allen Robinson is going to be really good, but I don't think they have
yeah,
a running back that I don't think their run game is going to be good.
mm-hmm,
So, that kind of helps and hurts the pass game, right? Just
yeah.
depending on what you want to key in on.
Okay, we'll move on. My number one fantasy wide receiver, who I
Yeah.
also just just thrown out there, I'm picking to win offensive player of the year
Okay.
is Justin Jefferson
Okay.
of the
He
Minnesota Vikings.
he's my number 1. We agree.
Okay,
We agree.
okay,
I was about to say
okay.
the fact that you don't have Cooper Cup in your top 5 is interesting. Like I'll say that. I get where you're coming from on that, but
Yeah,
I'm glad that we agree that like Justin Jefferson is going to be that guy. So
yeah.
continue.
Yeah, I mean, I just think he's the whole package. I actually am super high on the Vikings in general. I think that they are actually gonna go on a big run. I think he's gonna lead that. I mean, he's just. I think this might be a bit of a crazy comparison. I think he's Andy Moss with better route running.
Woo,
I yeah,
that's a pretty hefty comparison there.
yeah comparison.
I'm not going to say I'm
Uh,
disagreeing. I'm just going to say that's a hefty comparison.
that's a hefty comparison.
Ooh, you put some
I
grease on
mean,
that one. Come
uh,
on.
I love everything about him. I like his attitude. He works hard. He's super talented. He's the number one guy, even though there is stealing. Like he's still like the guy. He's still gonna get his. Um, yeah, I just think that there's really no flaws in his game, and he stayed healthy. Hopefully, so yeah,
Yeah. Hey, look, they got a new head coach, right? I can't
mm,
remember the guy's name.
yeah. Oh,
Do you remember his name?
Connell.
Okay.
Yeah,
Look, man, their last coach, again,
last
I can't remember his name. Um,
old guy. If I really,
I know
who cares?
yeah, I think
Who
he's
cares?
like an offensive coordinator now for another team or something
Yeah,
like that. Look, man, he he royally just messed up that offense with his play
yeah,
calling and decision making. Like he needed to be fired. So
yeah.
with all that being said, I think the new coach coming in is going to be a passer happier coach, right? Um, and I think Justin Jefferson is just that guy. I think he's going to be Mr. Consistency. He's young, he's talented. He's not even playing his best ball, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like last year wasn't his like he came in as a rookie and was beast mode, and he's still young. He's still got, he's not at his peak yet. But just so
Yeah.
everyone understands, his rookie year he was sixth overall in PPR and standard, right? He was fourth last year in PPR and standard, and I think he's going to jump up, right? I think he was a better wide receiver last year. His yards per catch was better. His route running was better. He's a little bit crisper, but the coaching was just meh, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And I had him. I had him in fantasy last year with Dalvin Cook, and almost lost the fantasy football championship because they just sucked butt, both of them. And
Yeah.
I'm like, how do you have Dalvin Cook and Justin Jefferson and suck? Well, coaching. You can blame Kirk Cousins a little
Yeah.
bit, but honestly, it was coaching more than anything else because I know Kirk Cousins could at least be good
Yeah.
enough to throw the ball and make the
Yeah.
plays. So, um, I love Justin Jefferson. And I think he's just gonna
Yeah.
take
And
I think he's gonna take another step. Go ahead.
yeah, I'll say that there was reported friction between that head coach and Kirk Cousins. That even this is sad when even Kirk Cousins thought that the offense was being too, safe.
Yeah.
So
They,
so
they were being
he wanted
insanely safe. It was ridiculous.
yeah,
They were running the ball when they were down by like 3 possessions in the fourth quarter.
yeah.
And
Cause
you're
like
like,
if
what are you doing?
yeah
Throw the ball.
if you
Throw it.
if you look at that offense on paper, it should be a top five offense. Like I mean,
Yeah.
it's stacked. So
Yeah.
yeah. But yeah,
Yeah.
we
So
are definitely on the same page.
we're on the same page. I see Justin Jefferson going number 1 overall in almost all my drafts. I'm gonna just say that
Yeah,
also.
yeah,
That's not to say that that's true for everyone. But I've seen a lot of people take him as the first wide receiver off the board. If it's not him, it's
hmm
usually Cup, and he's second. So
yep.
there you go. All right. That's our wide receivers, our top 5 wide receivers.
All
I would
right.
have loved to have done 12, but we just didn't have the time to do those episodes.
Yeah.
So, but as the season progresses, we will definitely keep it going and get that fantasy information out. Um, let's move on to tight ends. You ready?
All right. Yep.
All right. No, number 5. I'm gonna start since you started last time.
Okay.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Mine is going to be technically new to the top 5 in drafting. So this tight end actually finished number 3 in both standard and PPR last year among tight ends. You want to take a guess who it is?
Dalton Schultz.
Dalton Schultz, my man. He might have already known, right? He might have already known. I don't know. But
I don't know, but I was just gonna say that's also my number
okay.
5.
Okay, so hey,
Yeah.
here we are. Here we are. We're vibing.
Yeah.
We understand each other. Look, Dalton Schultz to the Cowboys. For some of the same reasons that I'm bumping CD Lamb up, I'm keeping Dalton Schultz within the same range that he was last year, which is a top 5 tight end. Um, Amari Cooper's gone. Those targets are gone.
Yeah.
Michael Gallup will come back eventually, but those targets are not there right now. We saw last year Dak Prescott trusts Dalton Schultz. He throws him the ball, right? So which his stat lines weren't crazy. I think it was like 900 yards for 9 touchdowns, which is still really good.
Yeah.
But as far as tight ends, it's not like the 1300 that you would see from Kelsey or anything like that. But I truly believe his efficiency might be better this year, and he'll see a little bit more targets this year. So I can
Mm-hmm.
see him breaking the 1,000 yards. I can see him getting 10 touchdowns, and if he does that, he's a top 5 tight end all day, right?
Yep.
What the arguments I'll have to make later on as we go through our list is, well, why is it he's here and someone else isn't? And then there's a specific someone else, and we'll get to that. But
I would
go
say,
ahead.
and
It's also a contract
like I
year for
said,
him, so I just want to say that.
that's exactly what I was gonna say. That's exactly what I was gonna say was, you know, uh, people I know focus on fantasy. I know that there's some people who don't even like know football that much and still play fantasy football. Oh, okay.
Go ahead. Yeah,
Okay.
for
Okay.
for some reason the
Okay.
audio cut out for a second, folks. Sorry about that.
Okay.
Continue, Paul.
Okay. Yes. So, but yeah, contract year means a lot. Like last year, again, just I was gonna say this, but I forgot. With Cooper Cup and Debo, I always get scared about guys after they get paid, especially wide receivers, how they're gonna perform
Yep.
after they get the big payday. So the fact that Schultz, he's like a lower level guy. I really never even heard of him. He kind of ascended last year out of nowhere, and now that he has a chance to get a big contract, I
Yeah.
think that's
Yeah. Well, I
something
mean,
to
look,
watch out for.
consistency is key, right? Well, you know what's better than one
Yeah,
year of greatness? 2 years of greatness. Um,
yeah,
and I don't think the Cowboys are in a situation where they can hamstring him and not throw him the ball. Because how some teams like to play that ticky tacky, like, oh, you're in a contract year, let's
yeah,
not give you the ball as much so we can kind of lower the price a
yeah,
little bit. I don't think they're in that situation. I really don't. So and Dak likes him. Dak shows that he's trusted him. Um,
yeah.
so I mean, look, you can get him round five is normally where
Mm-hmm,
all the mock drafts I've done, all the drafts I've done so far, if you don't take him in round five, you're not going to get him. He won't last till round six.
mm-hmm.
Um, Even if it's the end of round four, if you're at the 4-5 turn, grab him.
Yeah,
Just say
yeah.
if you want a top five tight end, that's not some of the other guys that you're going to have to pay more for, right? Because
Mm-hmm,
almost every other tight end is going round four or higher past this guy. So I think you can get real
mm-hmm.
good value on Schultz. Now, if you can get him past round five, if you know your league's just not keying in on him, wait.
Yeah.
I hope you get him. I hope you
Hey,
do.
yeah.
So, all right. So that's both our top fives. I guess I get to go again. Yay.
Mm-hmm,
My number four is Darren Waller, right? Made the arguments. I think, as I said, I think the Raiders are going to throw the ball 700 times.
yeah.
And
He's good.
I think Waller's going to get 140 targets, probably 150 targets. He is a good tight end, and look to see him get some of those end zone touches also. And then if you have Adams taking defensive pressure off of him, I think he'll be better, right? Because I mean, he was the number one guy
Mm-hmm.
last year, and he saw main defensive looks, and sometimes that would take away from his game. Um,
Yeah.
but with help, I think he can be more efficient. And even if you see a downtick in targets, I think his efficiency will more than make up for that. So
All right. I respect it. I respect it. Hello. All right.
sorry, sorry, listeners. I have that Bayou internet, and it likes to cut out. So, but the fun thing is you get to hear all about
Yeah.
it because I'm not cutting
Yeah.
this out of the episode. So, hope you enjoy this.
uh,
So,
so yeah. So
Paul, um, I said Waller. What are your
mhm.
comments on Waller? And is he
uh,
someone on your list?
he is on my list. He's much higher. I think that I'm a bit low.
Okay.
Yeah. I think he actually is going to take over the tight end crown from Kelsey this year.
So you think he's going
We'll
number
talk
one?
about. No, I don't. I
Okay. Well,
haven't. But we'll talk about why I have issue with Kelsey. But anyways, yeah. I think he's a star. I think that with with tight ends, it's almost the opposite. When we're talking about receivers, like, oh no, they're the second receiver, so this receiver might get less targets. I just feel like it's the opposite with tight ends, where I think the more the better receivers, the more I like that tight end. Like, even though I know like targets are a thing, but I think yards and touchdowns mean so much that I think that he's just gonna like they're gonna have to pick or poison, and I think he's just gonna eat all in that intermediate part of
yeah.
the field.
So where
Yeah,
where do you have Waller at first off?
two.
Two. So that's high.
Yeah,
I have him at what,
yeah,
four? I
yeah.
mean it's top five, so it's not that far apart.
Again, yeah, it's all
But I would say
they're all good.
being that we're only doing five, that's a pretty decent difference anyway.
Oh yeah, yeah.
So
Um,
I look,
they're,
I hear you. I just think he's sharing the
they're
field with
all
two
good.
other guys that are good.
Yeah,
They
yeah,
are all good. So
yeah,
we have to nitpick when we're doing this. I would
yeah. It's
gladly
hard.
have any of these tight ends on my team, but we have to
Yeah,
nitpick. So like my nitpicking was basically like, look, Adams is there and Renfro is there, and they're going to get targets. And Waller's not the number one guy anymore, so I think that could hurt his ceiling a little bit. So that's why I had to take him down a little bit. That being said, I can see him be number two. I could see him be
Mhm.
number one. That's not a question. He is that good. Look, bro, I was on the Darren Waller train before everyone else.
Oh yeah.
Right, right. I I watched Hard Knocks with
Yeah. I
John Gruden and
remember you talking about him.
all that, and I was like, and just from watching Hard Knocks, I watched Waller play, and I was like,
Yeah.
he's gonna be
He's
an
he's
amazing
big,
tight end.
yeah, big,
And
strong, fast.
I drafted him, and I think I drafted him in like the seventh round, and people were like,
Mm.
"Golly, why you going so high on that tight end?" I was like, "He's gonna be
Waller.
good," and he
Yeah,
was
because
good. He was like fourth that year,
yeah,
among tight
because
ends, you know.
he was actually a star in college, but then I mean, most people know he has serious alcohol issues, or
Yep.
he did,
Yeah.
and so that really messed up his whole life. But yeah, so uh, I'll move on to my number four, and it's a tight end who I'd say I feel is super slept on, isn't talked about a lot. But I feel like now that he's the man, he's ascending, and I think he's going to be a star. Dallas Goddard of
Oh,
the
ho,
Philadelphia Eagles.
ho, ho, ho,
Yeah.
ho. All right then. Sell me
Um,
that cup of tea, please.
okay. All right. So last year, if I mean, if you're not doing anything, you could look up his last like six-ish games, and he kind of took over for the Eagles, and he kind of carried that offense and helped them get to the playoffs. And I think he's always been very good, but he was held back by Zach Ertz. But then, like as soon as Zach Ertz got traded to Arizona, you just saw a different Dallas Goddard. Like he went from a good backup to like a strong star, and I think this will kind of um, be a point on why I have who I have at my number one. But mobile quarterbacks with good arms who struggle with accuracy at times, a tight end is their best friend. I just always think about like Kaepernick, Vernon Davis as this guy, Lamar Jackson. They got Andrews over there, and so I think Hurts is going to lean heavily on Goddard.
Okay.
And so yeah, that is
Look,
my
that's a fair argument. I'm gonna go the opposite way and say I don't trust Hurts's arm yet, and I know. Look, if it's short yardage, sure. I think
yeah,
Goddard can see the short yardage. That's fine. But I do
that's what I'm
believe
thinking. Yeah.
AJ Brown is there. Devontae Smith is still good.
Mm-hmm.
The guy got thrown
Yes.
into the fire last year, and he had some good games and he had some bad games. Um, I think a lot of it will be dependent on how good is the Eagles' run game, and
Mm-hmm.
that's the question we need to know. Because the Eagles' defense is good. They got better, and we'll talk about that in the next episode. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but if they don't need to throw as much, I'm worried about Goddard's usage. They
Mm-hmm.
have other stars.
And I think we're on the same page. Just I guess me on the other side of it, where I actually think that defenses are going to be so zoned in on AJ Brown and Devontae Smith, and Hurts
Yeah,
struggles at times passing the ball, that I think that Goddard might get close to like 90 catches,
yeah,
100 catches,
yeah,
because they're just going to keep on
yeah,
dumping it off to him.
yeah. And
Yeah,
it
so
might
that's
be short
what I'm
yardage
thinking.
catches, but which I
Yeah,
think that's fine. Like I see a world where Goddard could be top
it'll
five.
stack up.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. I'm just waiting.
especially because he's a very good, I would say, a very good red zone tight end
Yeah,
too. Like he's just big and like strong, and
yeah.
he can just catch the ball. So
So
that's good.
and like what I'm hoping to see is Jalen Hurts take a step forward, right, in his
Yeah.
passing ability this year. Second year, a little bit better.
Mm-hmm.
And if that's the case, look, I think you make a good argument. I think Goddard is a good potential fantasy sleeper, right? I
Mm-hmm.
think he's somebody that you could draft because right now he's someone you could probably draft in what the seventh round. I think
Yeah.
is where
Easily.
he's going.
Yeah.
So if you want a high upside guy who has a potential high ceiling, but you're kind of questionable about, Goddard at 7 would be a great pick.
Mm-hmm.
So Hey, that's a good choice. I like the argument. He's obviously not in my top five for
Mhm.
the reasons I mentioned. But I mean, honorable mention, top 10 for sure, obviously.
Yeah,
That goes without saying. Tight ends are top 10 is not hard to get into when it comes to tight
yeah,
ends. So, all right. Anything else to say on Goddard before we move on to my number
that's it.
three? Okay, my number three is the rookie hopeful from last year, Kyle Pitts.
Okay.
Um, Look, man, I think the talent's there. Tight ends take a couple years to develop, right? We all know that. They normally say
Yeah.
year three is where you really see the breakout. But I mean, look, he had some good games last year. He had some bad games last year. Um, who is their quarterback now? What's his
Mm,
name?
Mariota.
Mariota.
Mariota. Yeah.
So don't love Mariota, but I think he will be good enough to feed Kyle Pitts the ball. And like you said,
Yeah.
someone who struggles to throw the ball deep and all those arguments, I think could apply to Mariota, who can throw the ball decently a little ways down the field, right?
Yeah.
Obviously, I think the Falcons are going to just be a dumpster fire. But when you're a dumpster fire, you throw the ball 700 times a year. So
Yep.
I think volume more than anything
Yeah.
will prop up Kyle Pitts and put him in the top five. Honestly, I could probably drop him down a little bit. I might take Schultz over Pitts, but for right now, I
It's
just
yeah.
think
That's it.
I think his ceiling is very high, right? And last year
Mhm.
it wasn't even necessarily the catches so much as it was the touchdowns. He just didn't have a lot of
Yeah.
touchdowns. If you tell me that Kyle Pitts is going to get 6 or 7 touchdowns this year, I can justify him being the number three
That'd
tight
be
end
nice.
overall. So
Yeah.
I hope to see it. Like I said, I love seeing new talent emerge. I'm all about that when it comes to fantasy football. So um, anything you have to say on him?
Yeah, he's good. Yeah, I was gonna say like because the Falcons will be down a lot. I could see him getting a bunch of like garbage time stats. Just like them just like scoring a lot, and the Falcons just don't have anything else. They have Patterson and then Pitts. But Pitts is their number one guy, so
Yeah, I mean
that
Pitts is
that
gonna
makes
be.
a lot of sense.
Yeah. Obviously, I think he'll have. I think the problem with him will be consistency from a week to week basis. I
Yeah,
think you're gonna have some weeks where he's gonna go off, and he might be the best tight end that week. And I think you're
yeah,
gonna have some weeks where there's 9 other guys that are better than him. You
yeah,
know,
yeah.
so
The only thing I get worried about, like, if they're facing good defense, say like the Saints, and he's the only like dangerous weapon, they could just stifle him, and the
yeah,
Falcons really have no
yep,
chance to do anything else.
yep, and that's a very fair
Oh,
assessment, I think. So,
yeah.
but
Um,
we start
but
doing our fantasy
he's so
football
talented.
weeks. If we're gonna when we start doing our start sits, he'll probably
Mhm.
be on my sits whenever he plays the Saints, and that's not
Yeah.
even a hometown football thing. The Saints are gonna have
No,
a really good defense,
it's
and this
smart.
is what it is. So
Yeah, yeah.
yeah,
It's like in all my leagues, I have Fields, but I made sure and drafted Lawrence because I'm gonna sit Fields against the San Francisco defense.
yes,
Of the first week of the year,
yeah, oh
so
yeah,
that makes sense.
yes,
Yeah, so my third tight end is Travis Kelsey.
nice.
Um,
Also interesting, but
yeah,
nice. Go ahead.
yeah. He's a goat. I mean, he's one of the best tight ends we've ever seen.
He's 32 years
I
old.
use He's a bit older. I usually have him number one, but the oh, man, I feel like I'm the only person in the world who has major questions about the Tennessee Chiefs without Tyreek Hill. Like I think he did so much for that offense and made defenses so scared to even try to stack the box ever that Kelsey just had the whole middle of the field to roam,
Yeah,
most games. So I think without Tyreek, and they got Smith Schuster, and they got MBS. That's cool, but I think they're gonna feel that loss without Tyreek. But of course, Kelsey's still gonna be like a beast. 1,000 yards, 10
Yeah.
touchdowns probably. But I think he's gonna fall down just a bit in
Yeah.
the rankings.
Yeah. So I have Kelsey as my number one. I went with the tried and true there.
Okay.
Um, look, I agree. I think defenses are going to key in on Kelsey. I think my problem is I just don't even at age 32, I don't think they're going to stop. I think Kelsey will be dominant, right?
Mm-hmm.
There was a time before all that where Kelsey was the number one and defenses were keyed on him. And I don't think he's quite there to where
Yeah.
he's lost a step yet. Um,
Yeah.
I think he'll see the most targets on that team.
Absolutely.
I think what'll probably happen is for the first half of the year, Kelsey will see more defensive looks, and I honestly do think Juju's going to take some defensive pressure off of him eventually. Because I
Mm-hmm.
think Juju's good enough. I'm not saying he's elite, but I'm saying what's going to happen is his defenses are going to let Juju go, and Juju's going to start breaking people. Like he's going to
Yeah.
burn
I
some
would say
people. Go ahead.
they got that they got that burner too in the draft of
Sky Moore.
Sky Moore.
I don't
Yeah,
know about
so
him.
that'll be nice to see.
But let me put it this way:
Yeah,
if he's fast and can burn people and can catch, then defenses will have to put somebody on him.
it's
So we'll
it's
see.
yeah. I just have major reservations about Patrick Mahomes in general. I know people see him as the Lord and Savior of football, but I think he has some major flaws when things aren't there fast. Like I think
Yeah,
like it was so easy with Tyreek that like he could read those defense. But I mean, but even last year he started struggling a bit, and it was kind of weird. But I mean, yeah, I just wonder that when he hikes the ball and he sees Kelsey doubled, and then all the receivers are covered, like what is he going to do in a
yeah,
situation? So
yeah.
that's where I
Um,
mean I'm down in that situation.
I man,
Kelsey,
I like Mahomes. I'm not really down on Mahomes. I think I've watched him play, and even in the Super Bowl where he got his butt handed to him, that man was parallel to the ground in the air, throwing the ball 50 yards down the field, hitting
yeah,
Tyreek in the chest, and Tyreek drops the ball. Right?
yeah,
I just don't. Patrick Mahomes is an elite quarterback,
oh yeah,
right?
absolutely,
And I've been the guy who was like, I need to see consistency over a long period of time. So I waited. The first couple years, I was like, look, yeah, he's playing an elite guy. Let me see. Time went on. Time went on. Finally, I'm like, okay, look, I got my consistency. I've watched him play. I've watched him play when he's lost, when he was getting the team was getting their butt kicked, when everyone was playing bad. And that Super Bowl,
mm.
look, you can say whatever you want about Patrick Mahomes. The team around him was garbage.
Oh yeah, that offensive
He
line
played
was
his
embarrassed.
heart. Those wide receivers were embarrassing. Tyreek Hill
Yeah,
was dropping balls.
dropping.
Travis
Yeah,
Kelsey was dropping balls. I've never
mm.
seen so many drops in my life in a Super Bowl. It was
Yeah,
ridiculous. And there was Patrick Mahomes doing everything he could to force the game, to take the game on his shoulders and try to win. And his receivers let him down.
yep.
And maybe some of it's his fault. The
Mm.
quarterback plays a huge role. But overall, I watched that game and I said, here's an elite quarterback who is being failed by his team.
Mm.
I don't think I think he might have some regression. Obviously, he's not the number one quarterback going off. Um, I think I had him. Yeah, I had him number four in my quarterbacks in the
Yeah,
last episode.
yeah. I didn't even have him top five on
Yeah,
mine.
yeah,
Yeah,
and look, I have no problem with buying the idea that Tyreek's gone, Kelsey starts seeing double coverage, and maybe Patrick Mahomes struggle. I can see that
yeah,
happening, but
mm.
I think Juju's better than people think.
Yeah.
I don't know about Sky Moore. I'm gonna be honest with you. I don't.
Hmm.
Rookies are an anomaly to me. Let me see it
Yeah.
on the field first. You ain't even played a down of real football yet to me. I don't care about preseason and none of that. Show me, and then we'll see. I'll
Yeah.
reassess later on. Um, I think Clyde Edwards-Helaire might be a little bit better this year than people think
I
also.
think so. Yeah.
Um, so, I mean, I could see Patrick Mahomes' fantasy points going down a little bit, but I don't think his play is going to be different. I think he will be an
Mm-hmm.
elite quarterback. I think Kelsey is a dominant, large tight end on the field who is going to eat.
Mm-hmm.
Does that mean top one? Not necessarily. I have him as one because I view Kelsey like I view Derrick Henry, right? You're gonna have to show me that you're bad because until
Yeah.
you show me that you're bad, you're the best,
Mm-hmm.
right? I'm
Yeah.
perfectly fine with being wrong, but I'm also fine with saying that Kelsey is a safe bet if nothing else.
Yeah.
I can draft
Absolutely.
Kelsey and I'm not worried about. Now, I'm not drafting Kelsey in
Yeah.
any of my leagues. I just want to say that to everybody who's listening. Why? Because his price is too high. I'm not paying a
Yeah.
first round pick for Kelsey. I'm not doing it. If I saw Kelsey in the second round, I would grab him. But the first
Yep.
round, it ain't happening. Ain't happening. So that's just kind of where I'm at on him. So um, he was your number 3, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So I'm gonna go to my number 2, and I already said my number 1. So you'll just do your 2 and your 1, and
All
we'll go off that. So my number 2, which might be your number 1 or 2, is Mark Andrews. Um, Look, man, the Ravens got rid of Hollywood Brown. Um, what's their Bateman?
Mm-hmm.
I don't know how I feel about Bateman.
Rashad.
Rashad,
Yeah.
I don't know how I feel about Rashad Bateman. I'm gonna be honest with everybody. Look, he
He
showed
looks
some
cool. Yeah. Oh.
he showed some flashes. I mean
Yeah.
he's gonna be their number 1 guy regardless. Well, hold on, I'm gonna scratch that. I'm gonna say Mark Andrews is gonna be their number 1 guy, and Rashad Bateman might be their number 2 until Bateman shows me otherwise. Um, and that's most of my main argument, right?
Mm-hmm.
Mark Andrews, I drafted Mark Andrews in the 7th round last year, right? Everybody was like,
Easy
"Oh,
money.
he's gonna fall off," and well, I traded him actually. But so here's what happened. Last year, I was like, you know what? I'm gonna buck my trends because I normally don't draft tight ends in like early rounds. I drafted George Kittle early, right? Not a great idea to be honest with you because he got hurt and he had hit or miss
Yep.
games. And then of course my so we're drafting. The 7th round happens. There's Mark Andrews. Well, I said, well, damn. Even though I need a wide receiver or whatever, I'll flex out Mark Andrews and George Kittle every week. I don't care.
Yeah.
Um, and Mark Andrews ended up being what the number 1 guy last year, right?
I think so. Yeah. I think so.
I think he was. I'm gonna check for posterity's
Yeah.
sake.
It was
So
either him or Kelsey.
yeah. So I'm pretty sure it was, and yeah, Andrews was number 1 in both PPR and standard. Um,
Yeah.
so I drafted him in the 7th round because I was like, wow, that's amazing value. He should have went in like the 4th round. Um,
Absolutely. Yeah.
so go ahead and talk about him for a
Uh,
second. Give me a second.
yeah. Yeah. He's a very good tight end. Andrews. I don't know. I just have weird feelings. I don't know. If you've been paying attention, that they've had this rookie tight end go off in preseason. His name is Isaiah Likely. He just went ballistic in every game. Had like over 100 yards. So I wonder if that's gonna happen. And then I understand that Andrews has been good every year, but the Ravens are definitely a run first team. So I always
Yeah,
get a bit worried. But Andrews
and
Andrews
they
has been doing it
so
every year. So
yeah, I think he'll be top 5 regardless. Um,
yeah,
you know the 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 Ravens are known for throwing the ball like 400 times a year, right?
yeah,
But it doesn't really feed a whole lot of people. I heard about their other tight end. We'll see what happens. I think Mark Andrews can get down the field, play middle of the field, though. They might have their other
mm-hmm.
guy more be a slot slash blocker. I could definitely see 2 tight end sets, right? Why not have the extra blocking coverage for a running back and your quarterback who is a running back? Um,
Yeah,
I mean, he's a great passer too. I'm not trying to take away from Lamar
yeah.
Jackson. I'm
But
just saying he's one of the best running backs in the league, and he's a quarterback.
yeah,
Um, I just think Andrews is going to eat, right?
yeah,
And being that Hollywood Brown isn't there, Andrews is now the number 1 target,
mm-hmm.
and he'll probably see 30% of 400,
Yeah.
400 passes, maybe
Okay.
more,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
So this is kind of where I'm at with them. Who's your number two?
Um. So we kind of already talked about Darren Wahalar.
Yeah, yeah.
You know, he's good. He's in good offense. He's good. Yeah,
Woo! Draft
yeah.
Derek
That's
Carr.
about it.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
all right. Who's
Um.
your number one? I guess is my big
Okay.
question.
So I just want to, what's a big word? Precipice this that I am actually like a big hater of this guy. Like, if you ask, like our friends, like Antonio or Joe, like, I'd be shitting on this dude all the time because I would get like angry about him. Like, I feel like he's super overrated. I feel like he's super liked, so he's like popular, and every give him a pass. But this year, from what I've seen on camp, I would bet my life on George Kittle having the best year
Bruh.
of his life. And so let me just talk about this. So again, how I do with fantasy, I watch a lot of camp, and so I would
Yeah.
just kind of go on, like they call it inside baseball, where like I look at things like I said, like with the Debo running the option play. I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Lance's favorite target is absolutely George Kittle.
Yeah.
And I like to say that I feel like Garoppolo held back this dude so hard. When George Kittle had his elite year where he broke the tight end receiving yard Mark Evan Kelsey did the next year, that was with Nick Mullins. Okay,
Uh-huh.
not with Garoppolo. And I just feel like he's been held back insanely much. And I feel like with Garoppolo, they had to have him block a lot more than he should, and that caused injuries because I mean, everybody knows he loves going full ass block and
Yeah.
beat up people. He loves,
Yeah.
wrestling around, and that's great, but it obviously hurts his value when he misses games.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so this this is kind of like my I'm pushing all my chips to the center of the table where it's like if he doesn't show out, I'm never drafting him top 10 again because because
Uh-huh.
I'll have I'll have missed. I haven't drafted him in any league because what my strategy is with tight ends is I don't draft tight ends usually. I draft and I go heavy on receivers and backs,
Yep.
and then I trade for a tight end. And so I have traded for George Kittle in all five of my leagues with just extra receivers. Um, and so, like, I just feel like, again, mobile quarterbacks who can't see the defense as fast as a veteran, usually you'll see the tight end right there open. And like I said, with Hurts, Mariota, I think the same
Yeah.
thing will happen
Yeah.
with Lance. Lance, yeah, will need a blanket.
Yeah.
And I mean, again, if we're talking about like actual football, I think that Kittle's the best like all around, but obviously blocking doesn't matter in fantasy football. But I think
Well,
that he's definitely
it,
going to
it
be
it can
used.
affect the ceiling of a player, right?
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
if you're a
Yeah,
blocking tight end as opposed to a do it all tight end,
yeah,
yeah, it's gonna hurt your value, obviously.
yeah,
Um,
yeah. I think that this year is going to be, like I said. I mean, I'm going all
okay,
in. I think
I
that,
got you.
like,
So
yeah,
so
yeah,
number one, you're a homer.
yeah,
Anyway,
absolutely.
messing with you, obviously. If listeners, if you noticed, Kittle was not in my top five, and he was actually someone I struggled with as far as he's probably number six, right? Like, um, I struggled with, and I had to think about it. And while you make really good points, um, fantasy wise, PPR standard, Kittle's been second and third in both of those in a couple years, right? Um, I don't draft based on injury, but if you have an injury history, it can take some off the top, right? Kittle's only played one 16 game season, and now we're on
Mm-hmm.
17 game season. So he's going to miss a couple games most likely. He's a little bit older, a little bit more beat up. Um, Maybe I'm wrong, but I heard rumors that Kittle was going to be blocking more this year to protect for Trey Lance.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Maybe, like I said, you're welcome to correct me on that, but
Mm-hmm.
all the other podcasts I listen to and the news I read and everything else, they're saying Kittle's probably gonna have to block a little bit more. Um, with that being said, what spikes my wheel on Kittle was I had him last year. I had, like I said, I traded Mark Andrews away, Kyle Murray away, got Jonathan Taylor, won that championship. So obviously it all worked out for me. Wish I
Yeah.
would have kept Mark Andrews, but I kept Kittle because I was like, well, Kittle has the better upside, right? I was wrong.
Mm-hmm.
But when Kittle came back from his injury and Debo's out on the field and Brandon Ayuk's out on the field, Kittle would have a 200-yard game or like let's just say like a 25-point game. And then the
Mm-hmm.
very next week he had a 0 point game or a
Yeah.
three.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm extremely worried about that in fantasy because when I'm
Mm-hmm.
hearing reports saying that Kittle's going to be blocking more this year because he needs to, and also now I think him being a relief valve for Trey Lance. I agree with that. I think that's going to keep him
Yeah.
fantasy relevant, obviously. But my issue is if Brendan Ayuk is going to get an uptick in targets and Debo Samuel's going to keep being the guy that he's being, and Trey Lance is probably going to rush the ball and they're going to try to run the ball, I think Kittle is going to be the guy that gets left out most weeks, right?
Mm-hmm.
That's what I'm concerned about, and that's why I didn't have him in my top five because I think there's a good chance that while Kittle could be a top five fantasy tight end, could be at the very least a top six fantasy tight end. I think you're going to have more weeks where you're angry at him than where you're happy with him.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't draft like I'm not drafting him because his value right now is he's getting drafted in like the fourth round, and
Yeah.
I'm not paying that for an inconsistent tight end. I'm just not
Yeah.
doing it. I'd rather grab one of those running backs right there,
Mm-hmm.
or I'd rather grab Mike Williams or someone who has upside who I can trust. I don't
Yeah.
trust Kittle this year, and
Mm-hmm.
I hope he's number one. I love Kittle. I was a fan of Kittle for a long time, so I drafted
Yeah.
him a lot. And what I'm saying is from the fantasy impression I got from him last year, going into this year, and hearing everything I hear, and seeing that Brandon Ayuk is going to be great, I just don't trust Kittle. I just don't trust him, and
Yeah. And
I'm staying away from
I,
him.
yeah, I guess my argument would be I just trust Lance so much more than I trust Garoppolo in the passing game. That's
hmm
why I trust in Kittle. Like,
you still
Lance is so
trust
much more.
Lance after Garoppolo got signed?
I do.
The same amount? The
I'm
same amount?
uh, yes, I
Okay.
do.
Look,
But
I respect it. I respect it.
yeah, and I'm actually more um, excited for the season, knowing that we have, arguably the best backup in case Lance gets hurt. You
Yeah,
know,
there's no
I
question.
definitely,
Look,
yeah,
Garoppolo was never going to be starving for a job. We've talked
yeah,
about this. Like, he was immediately going to another team if the 49ers
yeah,
weren't going to have him. So,
yeah. So yeah, I love G- G- Garoppolo, but George Kittle's like best like route is down the seam, like to straight. He doesn't do nothing but just run straight down and he can catch the ball like that.
yeah,
And that's just not a throw that Garoppolo was able to do or even tried to do since
yeah,
2019. And as I said, just in camp, Lance is throwing the ball to Kittle when he's double or triple cover. Like he's had such faith in him that that's his guy, And
yeah,
and there's also a big mentor thing going on where like that's like his guy that he goes to
yeah,
when like he's advice. So yeah, so there's a super strong, you know, duo. And like I said, I've been super down on him because I feel like he gets paid a lot for a tight end, and he gets paid $16 million a year. That's a lot for a tight end. But I mean,
Yep.
I understand he's such a great blocker. I get all that. But at some point, you have to like step it up. And yeah. And then I would just say the whole Mark Andrews thing. I didn't have him in my top five, and I didn't have Kyle Pitts. And that's that thing where it's like I could have them over Schultz and Goddard like easy. Like those four,
Yeah, I
I could
mean,
easily
it's
mix and match.
like I said, I actually struggled with my tight end top five this year, and it's
Yeah,
not something I've had to struggle with in the past 2, 3 years,
yeah,
which is a good thing for fantasy. I
yeah.
like it. I like it.
There's there's
Um,
more.
we'll see what the situations unfold. This isn't we haven't hit week one yet. Like everything you get turned up
Yeah,
on its hill, right? So
I would like to shout out. I feel like Hawkinson is the next great tight end. I'm
hmm
still waiting for the Lions offense to kind of get going, see if Jared Goff can, get it going. But I think Hawkinson has all the talent to be
yeah,
an elite tight end.
yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, definitely, definitely. Look, we've seen it. We've seen Hawkinson be good. We just haven't seen the consistency of him being thrown to more than
Yeah.
anything else, right? I would love to see him. I hope defense is key more into Amana St. Brown, right?
Yeah.
I think the Lions picked up a rookie wide receiver this year too. I can't remember the guy's
Yeah.
name. Um,
Jamison
oh,
Williams.
him, yeah, he should be
Yeah.
good too. So,
Yeah.
look, I I don't view Jared Goff as very good, but he is good. He's not
Yeah.
great. He's not terrible. He's good. He's
Mediocre.
okay,
Yeah.
right? Yeah,
yeah.
like he's a prime Joe Flacco or a
Yeah.
prime. I won't say Matt Ryan. Matt Ryan's a little bit better, but he's a middle of
Garoppolo.
yeah, like Garoppolo.
Yeah.
Like he's
Yeah.
someone who can you know game manage and make not a whole lot of mistakes and throw the ball and so like he can make somebody fantasy relevant. The question
Yeah.
is who? Is it going to be Amon-Ra St. Brown? Is it going to be him and Hawkinson? I
Mm-hmm.
have like one share of Hawkinson. I think in our 16 team keeper league, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, he's my tight end, and I have him simply because like the value's there.
Mm-hmm.
I had Kyle Pitts. I traded him for picks and all this other stuff. Um, here's hoping Hawkinson makes the top 10, makes the top
Yeah.
five would be awesome. He
Yeah.
definitely has the talent. Let's see what the team does. The
Yeah.
Lions are a dumpster fire of an organization right now. So here's hoping that they get better. Like I said, I always want to see new teams in the
Mm-hmm.
mix. I love seeing new teams in the mix. So, um, that being said, I think that about does it for our rankings, our top five rankings.
Yep.
Man, I can't wait. I can't wait for week one. Uh,
Yep.
I have
We're almost there.
We're almost there. I have a draft Saturday for the league that I won last year. So we're gonna do that. And then I think, maybe one or two more drafts the following weekend.
Mm.
And then it'll
I
be
have a
week one.
yeah. I have a draft that I'm the league that I'm running on Sunday, and then you and me will be in the same draft
Yep.
in 7 days.
7 days,
So that'll
one
be
week.
fun.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. That'll
Can't
be
wait.
fun.
Can't wait. So,
Mm-hmm.
um, that's it for this episode. Look, keep your ears plugged in. Go on to the next episode, y'all. We're gonna talk about NFL cuts. Ooh, it's gonna be fun. I can't wait. We're gonna talk so much crap on other teams. Anyway, I'm Trevor with Fantasy Ambush.
And I'm Paul.
All right. Y'all have a good night. Enjoy the next episode.